Hello and welcome to What the Football. We are back again with yet another video. Let's do something a little bit different today. Amongst the consistent flow of transfer rumour videos, who's not signing for one club, who's not signing for another club, I thought let's change it a little bit. So what could be more different and just as boring as a transfer daily video? Well, let's do the worst ever Liverpool team in the history of the Premier League. Because why not? Liverpool Football Club, one of the most successful clubs in the history of European football. Amongst the Manchester United, Arsenal and Chelsea domination that we saw in the 90s and the noughties, Liverpool did have a long period of time they didn't actually win a league title, which means, of course, they were prone to the odd stinker of a signing. And cynically, of course, on this channel, we're here to celebrate the shit. And I think it's the perfect time to do an all-time worst Liverpool Premier League 11. Let's go. Goalkeeper was a very difficult one, because whilst we saw the end of Bruce Grobbelaar's tenure at Liverpool in the Premier League, the start of David James's Premier League career with Liverpool, the likes of Pepe Reina and current goalkeeper Alisson Becker, Liverpool have had some absolutely shocking goalkeepers in the Premier League. I'm talking Alan Bogdan, I'm talking Kage Arthazad, I'm talking Loris Karius, but of course the number one spot has to go to, unfortunately, a goalkeeper who was not only absolutely dreadful on the pitch, but absolutely showed shocking professionalism off the pitch. That's, of course, Charles Atangi. Signed in 2007, he was deemed to be Pepe Reina's backup, which even then is a loftier position than the bloke actually deserves. Mainly a cup goalkeeper, he never got a chance in the Premier League. He was, of course, notorious for being part of the team which conceded 2 goals against Haverton Waterlooville in a game which eventually Liverpool were to win 5-2. He was also prone to make the odd error, as shown in the 2-1 home defeat against Barnsley in the FA Cup, which of course cost Liverpool a place in the quarter-finals. But he's become notorious for his actions off the pitch and was, of course, infamously remembered for smirking during a Hillsborough memorial service. So for his dreadful performances on the pitch and his dreadful personality and professionalism off the pitch, Charles Atangi has to get in there. In at right back, and right back again is a very difficult position because despite the Rob Joneses, the Marcus Babels and current occupant of the right back role, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Liverpool have had some pretty dreadful right backs again in the Premier League era. I'm talking Abel Xavier, Hosami, Jan Kronkamp's another example of. I think this position is for one player only, and that is, of course, Philip Dagan, a free signing from a pre-Klopp Borussia Dortmund. Swiss international was deemed as a pretty competent fullback in the Bundesliga, despite having a bit of an injury-prone season in his final campaign. He played 15 games for the football club, and what can you say about a man that can't even displace Arbeloa and Glenn Johnson? I'll move on to left back now. I'm going to do it via shirt number pretty much. And at left back, I have gone for possibly the most easy choice on the list. Now, again, there are actually quite a few players that could actually fill this role. But the player that I have actually gone for is none other than Scouse-hating Paul Konchesky. Maybe not Scouse-hating, but the guy looks a bit like Voldemort. He was a competent Premier League fullback. But he was 29, he was a bit of a journeyman by the time he signed for Liverpool under, of course, the tenure of Roy Hodgson. I'm sure we'll get plenty more Roy Hodgson players in this team, don't you worry about that. But he was there for half a season, he left to join Nottingham Forest on loan. He became pretty much an example of how bad Roy Hodgson's tenure at the club was, really. Okay then, moving swiftly on to centre-back, and the first centre-back I've gone for is a player I can't actually pronounce it, it's going to be fun. I've gone for Torben Pichnik. If you've got any Danish people watching, please tell me how to pronounce it in the comments. Fucking idiots. But Torben Pichnik was a player that was signed on the back of a pretty successful Euro 92. He made his debut famously in the match against Aston Villa, where he came up against none other than Dean Saunders, a player who, of course, had been sold by Liverpool merely 3 days before. He, of course, took advantage of Pichnik's lack of experience at the very top level. One of those signings where you kind of watch him play, a bit like Bebe at Manchester United. You don't know how on earth he managed to put on a Liverpool shirt. The majority of his games under Graham Souness, I think he only played once under Roy Evans, and that was pretty much it for the Danish international. Alongside him is a player who, of course, like the aforementioned Danish international, signed on the back of a very good international tournament, where he took advantage pretty much of the great players alongside him. I'm, of course, going for Bill Babb. The man, of course, he was described once as bollocks for the wrong reason. Phil Babb took advantage of the fact that he played alongside Paul McGrath in an international tournament. He signed for Roy Evans in 1994 and actually became a mainstay in the Liverpool side for the next 5 seasons. However, his inconsistency, his notoriously bad passing, it would eventually become a problem for Liverpool. Phil Babb was clearly out of his depth at the club. Right then, on to midfield, and we're going to go for yet another Roy Hodgson signing. I've gone for Christian Poulsen in the holding midfield role. Another Danish international signed on the back of a pretty respectable career where he played for the likes of Sevilla and Juventus. Known as a very capable, comfortable holding midfielder in the style of a Didi Hamann. Maybe not an expansive passer, but he was comfortable on the ball. Reading of the game was pretty good. It seemed like a pretty decent signing at the time. Wrong! Was he an example of Roy Hodgson's bad management at the club, or was he simply not good enough? All signs point to both, to be perfectly honest with you. Completely out of his depth in the Premier League, and like the likes of Paul Konchesky, as soon as Roy Hodgson was to leave the club and Kenny Dalglish took charge, it seemed pretty obvious that Christian Poulsen would be one of the players that would be first leaving. Alongside Christian Poulsen is a player that actually signed for Liverpool this season before to fit the Xabi Alonso type role that was left, and that's of course Alberto Aquilani. Xabi Alonso left under a bit of a cloud at Liverpool. It was clear that Rafa didn't particularly want him and he wanted Gareth Barry initially. But of course Gareth Barry famously left for Manchester City from Aston Villa, and the next person on Rafa Benitez's list was injury-prone Alberto Aquilani. A very good passer and a good shooter, but it became blatantly obvious that the injury-prone Italian just couldn't handle the pace of the English game. His lack of fitness in game time pretty much was the reason why he eventually left the club a year later. On to the two wing positions. I know kind of gone a little bit off track in regards to the shirt numbers. I don't care. We're going to go towards the right wing position now, and I've gone for Antonio Nunez. A make-weight in the Michael Owen signing, which eventually saw the Cheshire-born striker go from Liverpool to Real Madrid. He scored one goal for the club against Chelsea in the League Cup final in a game which Liverpool were actually losing. Famously part of Rafa Benitez's Spanish Revolution, like Josemi, he was to leave very soon after the European Cup win in 2005. On the left-hand side of this 4-4-2 formation, I have gone for Milan Jehanovic. The wing positions are very difficult actually, because there's quite an array of appalling talent to play for Liverpool, and actually Bruno Chouroux, Dio Made, Brian Babel are all examples of how bad those positions were for Liverpool in a period of time. But Milan Jehanovic must go down again as one of the worst ever players to play for Liverpool. Another player who made his debut under Roy Hodgson, of course, he actually joined the club before Roy Hodgson became manager. He was a free signing from Stanley Liège, where he had a reputation of being one of the best wing forwards in the Belgian league. But after a goal against Germany in the World Cup in 2010, he had Liverpool fans foaming at the mouth. He played 10 Premier League games, scored 0 goals, got his first goal for Liverpool in a game against Northampton Town, in which of course they famously lost on penalties. As soon as Kenny Dalglish became manager, Milan Jehanovic was out the door. Onto the striking positions now for Liverpool, and amongst the likes of Fowler, Owen, Torres, Suarez, Liverpool have had some absolute shockers up front. I think I've gone for the right two here. The first man that I've gone for is El Hadji Diouf, and this one leaves a very sour taste in Liverpool fans' mouth. This is a player that was rightfully hyped up after an excellent World Cup in 2002. He scored 3 Premier League goals in his first season before being deployed as a winger, where of course in the 2003-2004 season he scored 0 goals, making him the first Liverpool number 9 in the history of the Premier League not to score a goal in a single season. And alongside the Senegalese international, we have a player who, to be perfectly honest with you, the fact that he even joined Liverpool in the first place is a bit of a shocker, and this is the Brendan Rodgers signing that was to replace Luis Suarez, Mario Balotelli. A lot of Liverpool fans thought they pulled off a masterstroke when they signed the Italian international. A bit of a flash in the pan, he had a bit of a maverick attitude, a bit of this Cantona kind of persona where we don't really know much about him, and when we do it's normally some lavish story about how he set fireworks off in his own house. Scoring 1 Premier League goal in the game against Tottenham, his time at Liverpool pretty much summed up Brendan Rodgers' 3rd season at the football club. Inconsistent and out of his depth. So thank you very much for watching this video. Have I missed anybody out? Should Andy Carroll be in the team? Is there another goalkeeper that's worse than Charles Atangi? What about right back? What about left back? Well, if you disagree with any of my selection, please let me know in the comments. Or if you want to just put your own team in, by all means do that. You can do any formation you want. And even put a manager in there if you want. Of course, the manager has to be Roy Hodgson, although I do believe Graham Souness probably does deserve a place in this team somewhere for pretty much starting the rut of 30 years. But like I said, leave a comment down below, like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Take care.